All right, and welcome back into another episode of MILF Hunters, a New York Jets podcast. Alongside Teddy Pristash, I'm Blake Pace. No, that's not the name of this show. It's not MILF Hunters. It is Chasing 69, a New York Jets podcast. Kind of could be the same thing. We don't know what he's up to.
Same ideas.
Teddy, fun podcast ahead. We've got a lot of talk about the Zach Wilson King Week, the kinging of Zach Wilson, handing him the crown over the internet for an entire week.
Early Hall of Fame induction.
Yep, it's really starting off his career on the right foot. We've also got some betting lines we're going to take a look at for some players that have had their lines released on sports books, talking overs, unders for a couple of the skill guys. Before we get into all of that, make sure to follow us on Twitter at NYJ_chasing69. Same for the YouTube page. Teddy at Teddy Huncho. I'm at Blake Andrew Pace. Theodore. It is Thursday, July 14th when this comes out. We've had to do a couple of weeks on Wednesday, but we should probably, I'm assuming, switch that back. But before we get into everything fun today, how are you doing?
Doing well, man. Just living my boring life, doing the same thing I always do.
Life's super boring.
Yeah, but it's been fun. I've had a few fun weekends back to back. So just been on the grind, weekday grind. And I mean, this Zach Wilson story has taken over the world and was a great thing to be kind of paying attention to these past couple of days. So yeah, I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Kind of like you, just working the week life, except unfortunately my work week life is Saturday, Sunday as well too. And there's no days off, but I decided I am going to close the store on my birthday a month from now.
Wow.
So that'll be
happy
fun.
Early birthday.
Gonna just take a nice Friday off and give myself some me time. So looking forward to working the next 30 days to get to that point. But other than that, no, things are going well. And you're right. This story brought so much joy into our lives. And, even as we're preparing for this episode, kind of as we have been for the last few, it's like, what the fuck is there to talk about? We're still a couple of weeks away from stuff really kicking into gear. Zach Wilson's mother's friend did us a huge favor. And so we've got stuff to talk about.
Really, his ex-girlfriend did us a huge favor, right?
So shout
Putting
out to
him
her.
on blast like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. She really caused all of this. And boy, oh boy, it just it was one of those things that had a slow build. And then once you got all the details out there, it was like just at the front of every conversation for a good chunk of the days. And it's one of those where ESPN isn't really going to get into it. The NFL Network, they're not. It's a story where it's like the internet just gets to enjoy it all together. Of course, we texted the day it happened. We've talked all week about it. Take me through your kind of discovering of Zach Wilson being a godsend.
Yeah. Well, what I want to do, actually, I kind of want to turn this around back to you, because what ended up happening is I'm doing my thing. On the weekend, I was up in the Thousand Islands, and I just got a text from Blake, and it's a screenshot of like the picture of Dax, what's his face, and Zach Wilson's ex-girlfriend, and kind of the screenshot of her comment. And I was like, what is this? And that's kind of how it broke to me. And you were the one who let me know about it. So kind of tell us what happened, what's going on here for anyone who may have missed it, even though I know if you're listening to this, you did not miss it.
Everybody knows what's happened if you're listening to this podcast, but Zach Wilson's got that dog in him. I think where I saw it was the Twitter account U Stadium, which isn't like a huge account by any means, but they just post viral stuff going on in the sports world. And it was the tweet, "Who doesn't love a little gossip? Word on the IG streets is Zach Wilson's ex-girlfriend is now dating his former BFF, BYU roommate, and current Commies wide receiver Dax Milne. And Wilson and Milne are no longer following each other on Twitter or IG." And then they quote tweeted that themselves with the comment from Abby, Zach's former ex-girlfriend. When someone called her a homie hopper, she said he was sleeping with his mom's best friend, ... That's the real homie hopper. So everything started from there. It was, players tweeting out about it. It was celebrities tweeting out about it. Our guy Ocho Cinco, who has done work with Zach in the past, tweeting out that he's the GOAT. Becton getting involved on Twitter as well too. It just turned into this giant week where it really was just the jokes you could make, the t-shirts you could buy, just one of those stories where it's not I feel like there's so many stories throughout the NFL season that are disappointing and unfortunate and sad. You think about last year, so many stories with the Raiders and all the troubles that they had. And there's a ton of stuff in the NFL right now that is just negative. You got Goodell stuff, you got Watson stuff, you've got, what's going on. I guess the commies as well, too. They've got a lot of problems with Dan Snyder.
Yeah, with Dan Snyder.
This is just something that while all those networks are talking about it, all of us on Twitter and the internet just get to enjoy Zach Wilson banging moms and throwing bombs. So, really just a great story. And I don't know, what were some of what do you think
for me, it's just what's funny about it is like at the end of the day, I don't really care all that much. You know what I mean? Like I don't really care that Zach Wilson, like, I mean, it's awesome for sure, like that he's banging MILFs or whatever. Yeah. But for me, it's just, you had texted it to me, right? And then I'm seeing it all over Jets Twitter. I'm seeing, the accounts I'm used to seeing tweet about the Jets, tweeting their memes, making jokes. Everyone's kind of saying the same things and just thinking it's awesome, thinking it's hilarious. But then, it's like a few hours are going by and it seems like every account's picking it up, like every NFL account, and like you said, they're not going to be covering it on ESPN, no. but on Around the NFL, which is, one of the NFL's big podcasts, they're talking about it. And I feel like the ESPN and NFL personalities are kind of dipping their toe and talking about it. And so it's one of those things. Yeah, it lives on the internet, but in the middle of July, when there's not much NFL news, like having the Jets have a positive story where people are actually saying like, oh, it's cool to like the Jets for some reason, it really is. It's like fun, and that's not, I feel like all that people think of when they think of the Jets is like, oh, they're horrible. You think of the butt fumble and you think of seeing ghosts and you think of like Sam Darnold getting mono was like this story, but like for toddlers, it's like, it's like, oh, that was cool, Darnold. Like you were making out with a girl, like whatever. Now it comes out that our now quarterback is out here loving older women, who we all know are pretty good looking based on what we know about his mom and her friends. So yeah, it's just funny. It's not like the most important thing, but it's hilarious. And what I loved the most, so I guess while this has been going on, Zach was working out in Idaho with some teammates, and posted an Instagram with all of them and captioned it, hanging with the boys, whatever. And then at the very end, he says, poor cell service, what I miss, which is just hilarious that he's like giving everyone that nod, and having it. So he's not going to come out and say anything about it, obviously, because he's smarter than that. But at the end of the day, his teammates are probably all giving him props for it. Like everyone, it's just bringing them all closer together, in my opinion, which is great for the team.
Yeah, I mean, the comments are filled with his players just like hyping him up. And, it's one of those stories where like, I don't expect him to really go into much detail over what's going on. And this is probably the big, just like, yes, I'm acknowledging that this has turned into a massive thing. But that being said, I know that when training camp rolls around and all these guys are in here with the reporters daily, they're going to get asked questions about it. And I think the teammates are going to hold back enough, but they're going to be hyping up Zach for the next 6 weeks now. Like they're just going to be, that's my quarterback.
Everyone's going to be saying he's got that dog in him.
Exactly. So, it'll be hilarious to see. I'm just excited to see, Braxton, some of the guys that were on the retreat, Uzoma and all those guys talking about it. Garrett Wilson. I would love to see, I'm just waiting for someone to ask Saleh. Just be like, hey, so what did you think of that? And love to see if he'd say anything at all.
It'll be like some like cryptic, like
exactly.
So have you paid attention to any of the fluff pieces, this year, kind of outside of football type stuff? And I can just imagine the smile that Saleh would give.
It's going to be great.
But yeah, it's one of those things too. It's like Blake and I were kind of talking before this and there is maybe some connotation he was unfaithful to his girlfriend, which we don't actually know any facts, and they could have been broken up or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of it's the type of story where it's bringing attention to the team, and there's really no negatives about it. Like who really cares at the end of the day? Zach Wilson's love life isn't going to dictate how he plays on the field, so it's one of those things where like it's just there's no harm, and it gets some fun, and it gets a little kind of like breaks the tension of this Jets team, and I don't know,
Right.
it's good, feels
Well,
good. It feels
I
funny.
feel like Zach's mom, who is always very vocal on social media, I think she would have been a little bit if she cared genuinely about whatever is going on. I think she would be a little less vocal on social media. But it does seem to be one of those scenarios where it's like no one, like someone maybe got hurt 6-8 months ago when they broke up, and whatever potentially went down, sure. But now it's one of those ones where it's like both have moved on, they're doing their different things. It's just a funny story. I do think it's funny that, it's just to think about how far along we've come in the last, I don't know, 15 years. There's that graphic that goes around from Sports Center where they were making a starting baseball lineup of all of Derek Jeter's celebrity girlfriends. And it's like Jessica Biel's on the mound. And it was literally every celebrity that Derek Jeter had dated was playing a different position on a baseball diamond. And it's just funny to think like, and I guess that's a little bit different. It's relationships, but you wouldn't even touch this Zach Wilson story with a 20-foot pole. So it is kind of funny to see how far we've come along from that.
For sure. And
yeah.
I do, the one thing we're kind of glossing over is Zach Wilson's old best friend, Dax Milne is dating his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. That's a huge violation, right? Because I saw people being like, oh no, you can't do that. But I don't know. I think that's a pretty standard rule.
Yeah, definitely can't do that. And what was I gonna say here? Oh, just to all the Jets fans, it's just funny because Dax Milne is a name through the draft process we all kept hearing because it was like, hey, let's take a shot on this guy in a late round. He's Zach's best friend. They got chemistry, blah blah blah. Obviously he was taken in the 7th round. It's really not that he's like an important player or whatever, but snake move for sure. And I'm happy we did not draft him.
Yeah. And it's the girl. I said this before. She went from a number 2 overall pick to a number 258 pick. So
yeah, quite the downgrade.
Was it 258? Lady. How many picks are in the draft? I don't think it's 258. Is there 260?
It's 258.
What's Mr. Irrelevant?
I don't know.
Maybe what if he was question. Mr. Irrelevant? Wouldn't that be perfect? She left Zach Wilson for Mr. Irrelevant.
Oh no, you're right. Oh yeah, 262. So he's
right. He was so close. He is borderline.
And just
Mr.
so we all know,
Irrelevant.
this year's Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, out of Iowa State. Breece Hall's former teammate, San Francisco. So watch out, Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. Yeah. Clock's ticking. Well, fun. So anything else that you want to include about that? We forgot about the mom posting the video leading spin class saying all of her friends are sexy, but she's just stating facts.
Yeah, man. I mean, you gotta capitalize on those clicks and gain some followers,
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I mean, like I said, this isn't the biggest story ever. I'm glad that we talked about it. We don't have to ever talk about it again, but
I want to every week.
Well, we probably will.
We changed the podcast name. It's Chasing MILFs.
Chasing MILFs. Not the worst idea. But yeah, I mean, now Blake and I are both, degenerate gamblers in our own right, responsibly.
There was something that I didn't put on here that I thought was some fun housekeeping just to bring up, because a thing that happened in the NFL this past week that wasn't Zach Wilson banging a mom is Sam
I didn't realize there was any other news.
No, well, it's just
just kidding.
Well,
I didn't realize anything else happened.
Our good old buddy, that was really it. Our good buddy Sam Darnold, probably, I mean, it's an open competition now, but of course the Carolina Panthers get a trade done for Baker Mayfield, a late conditional pick, coming in now to compete the number 1 and number 3 picks of that draft, which is just hilarious to think of when you consider the success of the number 7 pick and the success of the number 32 pick. But now Baker and Sam competing for a quarterback job in Carolina. And really the main reason I wanted to bring that up is just because of our wager. And I kind of wanted to rub your face in it, but it's not over yet. But the wager.
What wager is this?
The Sam Darnold one.
Which one is that? Remind me.
That he wouldn't be the starter. We were just talking about it earlier today.
I don't think Sam Darnold's going to be the starter. Are you getting confused with our Jalen Hurts bet?
Did I make this bet with Scott? Oh, no, 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 no. I am so sorry. You're right. I didn't make that bet with you. I made it with my friend Tom, my other
Your other
Jets
buddy.
fan
Yep.
friend.
Yep. Common mistake.
Shoot.
No, I mean, I don't, I have Sam Darnold, I have completely given up on. And like,
Isn't it
in my
crazy?
opinion, sure, there is a competition, but I mean, Baker's going to be the starter
He should be.
unless Sam Darnold does something he hasn't done yet. You know what I mean? Like the excuses are kind of run out, in my opinion, for him.
Yeah,
But I mean, I
I think
guess you can argue poor scenario still, but I don't know.
people just thought that Sam was, very pro ready, and he's way more developmental than I guess it turned out to be. And it's tough when you take a quarterback that needs development and a lot of work, and you put him in a situation that was as gross as the Jets. Not to say
Yeah.
that, it would have turned him into what Josh Allen has become or some of the other greats in the league. But you do kind of think, okay, if he did need a lot more work than people were giving him credit for, it's tough to say that he went to the right situation for that. So just some news, because I do believe that his days as a starter are probably coming to an end now. And it'll be interesting to see, how he kind of picks things up, because Rosen has floated around, and they jumped ship on him after a season, and he's floated around to a couple of backup jobs, practice squad. I'm assuming people will take another shot on Sam Darnold. But I think it'll be a shot as a backup quarterback where, okay, as a starter gets hurt, and then maybe he's got a chance to just show a little bit of something. But I would assume his days as a starter are donezo.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I guess I'm a little interested to see if a few guys went down. Injuries do happen as much as we don't want them to. If someone would go after them, just because I think the Panthers would obviously love to get something back for him. But at the same time, I just can't imagine like a team saying, I want to go give maybe Sam Darnold to fix our problems. You know what I mean? So
Definitely. Yeah, I'm trying to
he
think of
obviously has the opportunity to prove us wrong. I think the Panthers will probably give him a fair enough shake. I don't think they're going to go in with their minds made up.
Yeah, and Ben McAdoo has been pretty like, he says he likes a lot of the stuff, and whether that is just a new offensive coordinator talking about, he's excited to work with what at the time was the starting quarterback, if he meant that, or if he's just trying to hype his guy up. But it does seem that I was listening to an interview with Albert Breer earlier this week, and they were talking about the whole situation, and they were saying that this spring, Sam came in a little bit more edgy and really pissed off about everything, where apparently years past he's kind of just been floating about and not taking it seriously, but less holy shit, my life depends on this.
Sense of
And
urgency is
so
there
maybe
for him.
yeah, exactly. So maybe the tone and him realizing like, oh shit, this thing could actually go really bad for me. Maybe it kicks it up to another gear for him. But I mean, even at some of his best, it wasn't like world-changing football.
Yeah.
Out of the quarterback.
I fully expect Baker to be the starter, but we'll see. It'll be something fun to watch.
Either way, it's gonna be a terrible team.
It's also funny, just when they were picked 1 and 3, or is that correct?
Yeah,
1 and 3. Their destinies were gonna forever be intertwined, right? Because there was always going to be that comparison. Yep. And now here they are on the same team, and it's just funny that it's funny, and it's representative of how wrong we can all be when it comes to the draft and that whole process.
Well, it's just what the first round is. If you go back to 2000, it's right. It's like so close to 50% of the first round picks fail, and 50% of them are like good players. And, you're in a position where it's a highly touted quarterback class. You have 5 that go in the first round. 3 of them end up not working out probably as long-term starters. I think Baker is serviceable. I wouldn't say he's
literally it's like 2.5. You give Baker a half point, you give Allen a point, Lamar a point. It also is just representative of like, these guys who are getting picked in early spots, to a team that's not in a good situation. It can ruin them,
so
and
much.
we've seen it so much. And who are the guys who succeed? I mean, it's not like the Bills were in a great situation, but they at least had a GM and a coaching staff that seemed like they knew what they were doing. And then you look at the Ravens, just a world-class organization, being able to pick Lamar and be where do what they've been able to do. So
Yeah.
it is interesting. I mean, and I hope the Jets, like, we picked Zach Wilson with number 2, but we're actually making our team better.
Well, that's the thing is it's like it makes you think to tie it back into the Jets. It's like, okay, well, we had 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round of this draft class, and what side are we going to end up being on?
Yep.
I really liked Lawrence, Fields, and Wilson. I thought Trey was a little bit of a long-term projection, and Mac was very sturdy. Odds are 2 of those guys aren't going to pan out, so it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds. And it's still too early to tell, but I think this second season is going to be probably a make or break for 2 of them. So at the very least, I would assume with the Jets and with the Bears in Justin Fields too, just given how strong this upcoming class is. And if you're picking in the top 3, what does that tell you about your play at quarterback? That was just something that came to my head, and I forgot to jot it down. So
good to talk about it. Yeah. Gotta keep tabs. I love keeping tabs on former Jets. One of my favorite games to play when watching Red Zone is pointing out former Jets. So
you're really going to enjoy Denzel Mims on the Seattle Seahawks next year.
Yep, I'm there. I don't want to talk about Denzel Mims more next week.
All right. We're not going to talk about his betting lines up here. I wonder what his totals are set
Surprisingly, couldn't find any. Odd, I know.
That's so interesting. Teddy, I'm really excited to talk about some season totals and props for these players. Yeah. I am in the midst of what I would consider, I think it officially has been my worst gambling stretch ever. And I get to this point in mid-July, late July of every year of the last 3 years where it's just like, just bet on football. Football, you at least break even, if not make a little bit more. Baseball, basketball, it just goes, chew. I am down so much money in the last month. And I probably should stop.
Responsibly.
We'll see if I do. Not responsibly, very idiotically.
I feel that.
The name of my gambling folder with all the apps is the gambling addiction hotline number. Like, it's just a reminder. Like,
well, that's good to know it. I've been kind of off my gambling grind lately, but yeah, I'm a football guy. I mean, the only thing I've been betting on recently was the USFL.
I had a couple of nice hits there. You did.
Yeah, I think I might become like the USFL guy. If they survive a second season, I'll start putting out picks and stuff. Oh yeah,
Doug's has you beat
from Barstool. Yeah, that's cool. There can be 2. I'll probably be way better than him. but no, yeah. I mean, I was looking at these today because I didn't even realize these were out. And there's not lines for all the players on the Jets, but the top tier ones in the offensive position. So we'll go through. We'll hit the quarterback. We'll hit some receivers. We'll hit Breece Hall. And yeah, I'm excited to hear what you think because this is really the projection of the season. And if you don't mind me just jumping right into it,
go ahead.
What's funny about this is we've talked a few times about kind of what our expectations for Zach Wilson are, and what would kind of be representative of, that step forward and actually establishing himself as a top half, top 15 quarterback in the league. And his projections, or what's the word, his over unders, his lines for passing touchdowns and passing yards are kind of right there. I've been saying that mark is like 3,800 plus yards, and I've been saying I wanted 25 touchdowns. His passing touchdowns prop is over under 22.5, so right around that area. And his passing yards is over under 3,750.5. So basically that's what it is. Is he going to get almost 3,800 yards, and is he going to be in that 23, 24, 25 touchdown range or not? So yeah, I mean, that's the expectations. I think if he hits those numbers, it is a sign of a step forward. We have a 17 game pace from last year. If he had played fully healthy, kind of with that same pace, it was right over 3,000 yards, almost 12 touchdowns, so not a great year by any means. We all know that, but the Vegas lines are at least projecting that step forward, because even if it's not I'm a top 10 quarterback in the league, you're adding almost 1,000 yards here and doubling your touchdown total from last season. So I'd love to hear where you land on that.
Do you want to go each bet specifically, or do you want me to just give both of them for Zach?
I don't know. Do you have one that you like better?
let's take them one at a time. Let's start off with passing touchdowns, 22 and a
All
half.
right,
I'm going to go
22
over
and a half.
I'm going to go over on that one. That's my thoughts of touchdowns. I just believe that, so much of the confidence of a quarterback is not stats like it, but I don't know. I think sometimes crossing the end zone as a quarterback and having all the different weapons that they've added, sometimes I think that just paves the way toward confidence. It's of course making great plays in between the 20s is, great consistency and that, but I believe converting and getting into the end zone and getting those passing touchdowns. And when you have weapons that can also take things deep by themselves, I think that paves a lot of the way too. Elijah Moore, a burner, Garrett Wilson, do it all. Like those guys are guys that can take those shallow crossers that they're going to be running and take them to the house. So I believe, given the fact that when they're in the red zone, I'll expect them to go a little bit pass happy. And the fact that I think they've got playmakers that can do stuff on their own and get to the end zone. I'm going to go over 22 and a half. And I don't know. I thought that was pretty low, considering I just think how pass happy the league is now. I certainly think that given the tight ends they've added, safety blankets in the red zone, you probably don't work a little bit too much throwing to the running backs in that area, but you never know. But then also the trio of Davis, Elijah Moore, and Garrett Wilson. I think 23 touchdowns is probably, to me, easier to attain than the passing yards. But what are your thoughts on touchdowns before going into yards?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go over as well. And we've talked about how kind of my bar was 25, and that's 3 over what this bar is. I really just part of it's just like that wishful. It's like we can't continue to have quarterbacks who throw 9 touchdowns a season. It's not good enough. Like we need to start getting passing touchdowns up in the teens, or high teens, low 20s. And I think what you also have to think about is last year, sure, Zach Wilson had 9 touchdowns, and I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I know Mike White threw for 4 touchdowns in a game. Joe Flacco threw for 3 touchdowns in a game, and Josh Johnson threw for 3 touchdowns in a game. So right there, that's 10 more touchdowns. That puts the team total at 19 plus whichever ones I'm forgetting. So it's really not that far of a jump, in my opinion, if Zach Wilson is out there most of the season, hopefully the whole season, for him to get to this number. And I also think, at the end of the day, they have, as a team, taken that step forward, just comparing the talent they had this year to last year. So their offense is going to be able to move more effectively, more efficiently. And I think he'll be able to hit that number for sure.
So real quick before you get there, I came up with a fun trivia question. This century,
here we go.
Dating back to 2000, how many times has a quarterback for the New York Jets thrown over 22 and a half touchdowns in a regular season? Going back 21
Dating
years.
Back to 2000?
2000. I know that gets a few years that really weren't us because we were 3.
Yeah.
But if you just had to say in the last 21 years, how many times has it happened?
I mean, I'm trying to break it down. Like since 2009, I'd say maybe there was 2 to 3 of those seasons. Maybe. I mean, 2015 is the only one that's really sticking out to me. And then, I mean, I know we had Favre. He threw a decent amount. I mean, I'll say 3. No, I'll say 4.
2.
Damn it. Where did I get the 2 years?
You
Favre
got
Fitz?
one of them. You got Fitzy, who threw 31 in 2015, which you're dead on about. Sanchez, 2011, 26 touchdowns. Favre's career high with the Jets ended up being, I got it right here, 22. So he was just underneath that in 2008.
Damn.
So just twice, which is kind of crazy.
It's not something we've seen.
It's funny because we talk about how miserable it's been, being a Jets fan. It's like, hey, these projections are approaching some of the best that we've seen. Vegas sets the odds because that's what they're projecting to have happen. And it's like, hey, they're saying Zach Wilson, full 17 games, going to be up there in the touchdown. So Teddy, take it away with passing yards, and then I might end up asking you the same question.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that same thinking. I think kind of what you alluded to. I guess I'm slightly less confident in this number. But at the same time, I really do. I think this offense is going to move a lot better than it has in years past. And I think regardless of kind of whether Zach Wilson's taking that step forward, drives are just going to be able to be maintained longer with, better tight end play, better running back play, a better offensive line. So I am going over here as well. I kind of tweeted out a spoiler last night if you're listening to this today, but well, that didn't make sense, but
no, it did.
I'm probably going to take a lot of overs, because I'm bullish on what I think Zach Wilson's going to do next year. And obviously I'm a Jets fan, so maybe that's not the smartest thing, but I do really think I think he has the talent and like kind of the skill set. Whereas a guy like Sam Darnold, we were just kind of projecting he was going to start doing things that we hadn't seen. Whereas Zach Wilson, I think a lot of the stuff we want him to do this season, we've seen. It's just been inconsistent. So yeah, I mean, Vegas is kind of projecting this step up for him. And I think he's going to get there. I think he's going to be, at that 38, 39, 4,000 kind of benchmark. So I'm going over.
I'm going to go under here. And it's one of those ones where I think to me, it's just going to be just a hair underneath. I just really believe in, as we get into a couple of these next guys, or just one of these guys next, I do think that this is going to end up being a top 5 team in rush attempts, rush yards, all of that. So, buy your stock in Breece Hall. Teddy's got the 101 in our dynasty draft. We all know where he's going with that.
Yep.
Going to take our boy Breece, but I just think that they're going to be so run dependent, not dependent, but run heavy and run oriented, that I think that's going to take away a little bit of the yards. Now, in this league, so much of that depends on, well, how good is the defense? Because if the defense ain't shit, Zach Wilson's going to need to throw the ball a hell of a lot more. So a lot of that plays into what the team is going to look like. But I think they've built this team to be stout on defense, hit the quarterback, and run the football. And so because of that, I'm going to go slight under. I love the optimism of it. And you're right. We said 38 to 4,000. I am just going to go slightly under, though, because I think that to me, it just screams a run first offense.
Yeah. And I think that reasoning is, there's nothing you can do to argue with that. And I'm glad that you kind of brought that point up, because that is kind of where my hesitation was I really do think this running game is going to go. And I think I think we're going to have the ability with the offensive line and the 2 tight ends that we have, and, adding Breece Hall, having Michael Carter, I think we're going to have the ability to be sustaining drives with a lot of runs where you're just kind of seeing run after run after run. So yeah, definitely super possible. I'm the optimist, but I always kind of like when we disagree, because it gives us that
we can't just have
competitiveness.
If we agree to agree, then that's it. We have to agree, because we don't want everything to be the same. But Teddy, I asked you about I'm just going to add this for every category we do, just because I think it's fun. So going back to the year 2000 as well too, 3,750 yards. How many times has that happened for a Jets quarterback in the last 21 seasons?
This one I have less of a grip on, but
that's definitely a tougher one.
If
touchdowns was 2,
right? That's what I'm saying. If touchdowns is 2, I don't think either of those guys would have hit this mark. Maybe Fitzy did. I'll go 1.
You are dead on. Ding, ding, ding.
Let's go.
One quarterback. You are right. It was Fitzy in 2015, threw for 3,900 yards. However, there was one guy extremely close. If we go back to the year 2000, a 37-year-old Vinny Testaverde threw for 3,732 yards. So he just missed the cut there. But just again, with the quarterback projections, it's like, holy shit. These are some high expectations for a second-year quarterback. And I think if Vegas is setting these numbers, I think that tells you more beyond the buzz of social media and the buzz of the internet. I think that there's a lot of, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think setting these totals pretty high tells you what they think about Zach Wilson and this offense coming into next year.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'd like to move into the wide receivers next. And I think it's one of those things where these are directly kind of correlated, because if Zach Wilson is going to be throwing touchdown passes, they're probably going to be to to his wide receivers. So, the only guys that I use the DraftKings sportsbook for these lines, the only guys they had were Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. So let's start with Elijah Moore. He's the tried and true. He's been here. Receiving touchdowns over under 4.5 and receiving yards over under 800.5. Let's start there. We'll get into the receptions in a second, but Blake, what do you think about those?
Over.
Yeah.
That's just
okay. Fuck yeah.
Elijah Moore, I think he's 1,000-yard receiver next year. And so these to me are extremely low. The touchdowns, I guess I wouldn't say I'm the most confident in. I guess if there was one that I was more confident is what I'm trying to say is the receiving yards. But I think that his pace, what he was on, and just the elevation of the offensive line and Zach Wilson, I would shoot through the moon on this receiving yards. We talked about how we're going to place these later tonight. That'll be the first one I take. It's my favorite bet from all of these props. I easily project over 800 yards, 801 yards for Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Taking the overs. I do agree. I mean, the problem with a receiving touchdowns prop, is that
tough.
Touchdowns are very random at the end of the day. Obviously good players are able to make plays. They're able to kind of break away. They're able to get open in the end zone. But at the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to which players does it go their way when you're in the red zone and you're close, and who are they calling plays for and things like that. But 4.5 really isn't that much, it seems, for the touchdown total. Last year Elijah had that really great 5-game stretch before he got hurt. And if you look at just his overall season, again, projecting it out over 17 games, he had 831-yard pace and almost 8 touchdowns. And that's with, the slow start that all rookie receivers, or at least most rookie receivers, have. It's with, the multiple quarterbacks kind of going back and forth with Zach Wilson, him having to finding his footing, not having a great couple first month of the season. So I definitely think, I agree with you. These are kind of the ones I'm most bullish on, especially because I think that because we have a top 10 wide receiver that a lot of people thought was the best receiver in the class, a lot of people, and maybe Vegas, are kind of saying maybe it won't be the Elijah Moore show because it'll be more the Garrett Wilson show. But I still think Elijah Moore is going to lead this team in receptions, in yards, in touchdowns. So I'm going over here as well. Now, this next one, sticking with Elijah Moore, his reception total 64.5. So you're bullish on his yards and touchdowns. Does that correlate here? You think 64.5 is that not enough for him to get that 1,000 yards you're projecting? You think he's going to get this pretty easily, or do you think it's pretty close?
I feel really good about the receiving yards and receptions. I think both kind of, they obviously tie hand in hand a little bit more than the touchdowns. But yes, I do love the over 64.5. I think that, yes, they've spent a lot of time with Garrett Wilson since the draft. And yes, Corey Davis was around last year as well, too. But I really think the key relationship for this offense next year is going to be Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore. I just think he's breakout through the moon if he stays healthy. That's the big thing with, I guess, Elijah and betting his totals is like you hope for a clean bill of health. But, taking a look at what the 17-game pace was, and you're exactly right. Just being a better team, having continuity, having an offensive line, having more weapons around to create more of a distraction for you. Elijah Moore, to me, as we're going to get into Garrett Wilson, I think there's these, to me at least, go a little bit hand in hand where I go with each of them. But Elijah Moore, I really do think, some offenses are very spread out now. I think that this is going to be spread out enough, but the focal point is going to run through Elijah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just, the 64.5 kind of marker, when you look at that on a per game basis, it's less than 4 receptions a game. And I think the Jets are, making mistakes if they're not finding a way to make sure that Elijah Moore is getting 4 receptions a game. So yeah, totally agree. I think this and the yards, and, I'll throw in the touchdowns because the more catches you have, the more touchdowns you'll have, but the receptions and the yards, I'm definitely going to hammer home once we finish recording because they just seem too low.
They do.
And, maybe some of that is with this, with kind of where Garrett Wilson projects. Do you have anything else on Elijah Moore? Are you kind of ready to move on?
Yeah, no, we can go over to Garrett. What I'll say about my little game show for you is I'm just going to group these two together since
Oh
their
shoot, I
totals are
forgot
pretty
about the
close.
game show.
There's so many receivers on each team. I'm just going to loop both of them in together, and we're just going to go receivers over 750 yards since 2000. But let's go to Garrett first, and we'll do that after because it's a
Okay.
long list, and I've kind of been working on it when you're
That one will be
answering. So
hard.
that one's tough. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, well, I want to go first with Garrett Wilson. I've
Go
let you
ahead.
go
Go right
first,
off.
and the reason I want to is because I think maybe you expect me to disagree with you, but maybe this is where
I'm
we'll
interested to
agree.
see where you go. Yeah.
So receiving touchdowns, Garrett Wilson's currently at 3.5. That's it just seems kind of low to me. It doesn't seem like that high of a bar to hit. I mean, you look at last year, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Moore. Those are the top 6 rookies in receiving yards. And, 5 of those 6 guys had 5+ touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they didn't have the competition with a guy like Elijah Moore. But to me, 3.5 seems low. It seems like, is it really going to be that hard for this guy that we picked 10th overall and are going to most likely be prioritizing to get on the field? Is it really going to be that hard for him to catch 4 touchdowns? I don't think so, especially projecting Zach Wilson to have over that 23 mark. So for touchdowns, I'm definitely going to go over. Now, receiving yards currently set at 749.5. This is where I'm going to go under. I think that where the Jets, there's so much talent on the field, which, when's the last time we were able to say that? But
yeah.
But Uzama is going to get his receptions. Conklin's going to get his receptions. Corey Davis is going to get his receptions or, receiving yards as well. Braxton is going to get touches. Breece Hall is going to be catching stuff out of the backfield. Michael Carter is going to be catching stuff out of the backfield. So you're really competing with every other skill player for these receptions and for these yards. And I just think 749, it's pretty high when I think that Elijah Moore is still going to be kind of the 1A of this offense, especially mixing that with the run game and how run heavy they're going to be. And again, then you have the 2 tight ends who I think are going to be heavily involved. So for Garrett Wilson, I'll go over on his touchdown total and I'll go under on his receiving yards. Is that where you stand as well?
Yeah, we're exactly similar on that. I thought we'd be a little bit different, but I'm glad to hear that kind of we're thinking the same way. If we think Elijah is going to be more of a number one than more of just a committee, then I think that speaks for itself. Where we'd go with these bets, the touchdowns. To me, I just go over because I think of, something he is best at is that catch radius. I mean, that's one of his best assets to him. And if you're throwing some stuff into the corners of the end zone or through the back of the end zone, his ability to, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're just on the go and you're, I love
changing
trying
directions.
To get you. Yeah, when you're improvising. So when you're improvising, broken down play,
scramble
around
drill.
the back of the end. Exactly. So I just think that and his his catch radius is kind of like CeeDee Lamb, and you think of all the stuff that he could work through different angles in the end zone. I'm going to go over on the touchdowns, and then I'm going to go under on the yards just because I think that ball is going to go to a lot of other places. And not to say that they're not going to make him an important part of the offense. He should be the number 2 wide receiver, but I think if Elijah is going to be, I mean, it's crazy. I think Elijah, I really do think Elijah Moore is a 1,000-yard receiver, and his total is set 200 yards below that. So that kind of is a little bit different thinking than I guess what Vegas has us set at. But yeah, I'm just going to go under with him because on the passing yards or the receiving yards specifically, because new tight ends, you're going to get them involved. You're going to still get Corey Davis involved. You're going to get the running backs involved. And I don't think he's going to have a bad season. I mean, I think he could still very well be in the 600 to 700 range, but just for where the total's at, I'm going to go under just a little bit.
Yeah, and just to talk about kind of rookies in the past few years, in 2020, it looks like eight out of the top 9 rookie receivers or pass catchers all hit this mark and all had 4+ touchdowns. And then you look at last year, and like I said, 5 out of 6, 6 out of 8 of the top guys all hit this mark with more than 4 touchdowns. No one less than 6 out of 8 guys with 5+ touchdowns there. So it's not like it's unheard of for these top receivers to be getting that. But then if you also look at kind of where the yards break down, the only guys that are hitting this mark are really the top 5, rookie pass catchers of that season. So is he going to be there when he has the competition? I don't really think so, but we'll obviously see.
Yeah, and that's so interesting because I mean, if we take a look at what the numbers of some of these receivers are, we're not going to go through each one, but Brandon Ayuk is the guy that where these lines are set at seem most similar to what the Vegas projections are for Garrett Wilson. Ayuk had 748 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. So kind of around the same thing. You think from that offense as well, too, as a rookie, wasn't the number one guy. They had Debo, they had Kittle that they're obviously feeding to as well, too. Ayuk is one of those guys that I think came on strong at the end of his rookie season. So it gave people a lot of hope. And then it kind of simmered down in his second year for a little bit. It's been up and down, definitely. But just interesting to think because like I would assume more production than what you would get out of a Brandon Ayuk. But at the same time, it's like, well, where's the ball? Like, how are they going to get those opportunities if they're going to be a run first team and if they've got a bunch of other guys that they're going to feed the ball to?
Yeah.
Interesting. So
I agree. Well, we agree there.
Before we go to Breece Hall, just a random guess since 2000, how many receivers for the Jets have had over 750? This one's tougher because it's a low number. It is.
It is?
Or okay. No, the 750 is a low number.
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. That's what I was going to say. I mean, it's probably what I'd like to know.
I'm just curious to see what you say.
What I'd like to know is I mean, rookies over this number is probably 0 if I had to guess. But I mean, I'll say guys over this number total, I'd say 13.
Oh, wow. You really undersold that.
Okay.
Yeah.
28.
28.
See, I mean, it's too low of a bar. I mean, we've had good receivers in the past 2 decades. So,
and I'm going to just go through them all real quickly. 2000 had 3 guys, Richie Anderson, Wayne Sherbet, and Dedrick Ward. You got Lavernius Coles in there a couple of times, Santana Moss in 2003, again in 2004 with Justin McCarrons. Lavernius Coles again and again. Jericho Cotchery. Lavernius Coles is all over this place.
Yeah, he was Jericho. He was a stud. Jericho was a stud as well.
You got Braylon Edwards, 2010. Dustin Keller, tight end, 2011. 2012, Jeremy Curley. This is where we're getting into our sweet spot, Ted. And then, of course, 2014, you got Eric Decker. Then you got Decker and Marshall in 15. 16, Brandon Marshall and the GOAT, Quincy Enunwa. And then
guy.
2017, you had Robbie Anderson, Jermaine Kearse. 2018, just Robbie Anderson, who did it again in 2019 alongside Jamison Crowder, and nobody since 2019. So that's the quick list of 28 guys, 750 receiving yards or more. And the Jets currently have 2 projected to hit that total, according to Vegas, which has happened. There was a handful of times in which that's happened over the last 20 years.
Yeah. What I will say is I think that if I not picked the number, but if you had just asked me like what guys, I think I probably could have gotten a lot of those guys. Definitely. Maybe not some of the early ones, but Corbett, definitely, he's a legend. And then Coles, Cotchery, we all remember kind of the 2010s and all those guys. So I think I would have been pretty close.
Good. Nice. Well, let's talk about our other boy then. We got one more guy to go over.
Yes, my king, Breece Hall. I mean, I think I'm going to buy my Breece Hall jersey right after this. Because,
which is funny that you say that because I was almost thinking about getting a Zach Wilson one the other day.
Damn, you should match me, my guy.
That'd be cool.
I've worn my Zach
Wilson jersey. You have worn it a lot recently.
I wear it almost every episode, and I kind of think that I always think about changing it up, but the past few episodes, I feel like it's just been needed. Like I had to represent this week. after all the news that came out. Last week, he was my 101 pick and players with pressure on him. So, yeah, but, maybe next week I'll be in the Breece Hall jersey because I, again, am very bullish on this guy. And I think it's basically everything we've talked about. Like, yeah, we're projecting these numbers for Zach Wilson, but let's say he does hit the overs barely. Say he throws 23 touchdowns and say he throws for 3,800 yards. I mean, that's a pretty good season, but that's not like it's going to be a team who's only throwing the ball and that's the only way that they're moving the ball. This Jets team is going to want to run the ball, and I think they're going to definitely be successful with the line they've put together, with Breece Hall, with the change of pace with Michael Carter. I think they're definitely going to be able to run the ball and run the ball effectively. And I do think that Breece Hall is going to be a 900 to 1,000 yard back in his first year. It's not unheard of for rookies to hit that mark. Last year, 3 guys had over 900. Javonte, who's sharing work, Elijah Mitchell, who only played 12 games with almost 1,000, and then Najee Harris, who,
they just didn't stop getting the ball.
Yeah.
What was it, like 300? Yeah, 307.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then in 2020, you had Jonathan Taylor and James Robinson, both guys who were kind of, workhorses as much as a rookie running back can be. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think Breece Hall is going to fall in. I think we're going to feed him a lot. You look at what Michael Carter was able to do in 14 games on a team that was 27th in rushing, and he had 639. I don't even know if I've said this yet, but Breece Hall's line for yards, 830 and a half. I think that it's not a bad line. I think if he hit around 800 yards, you could say it's a successful rookie season. But I definitely think with the way that we're going to run the ball, that's going to be an over.
Yeah, I'm gonna go split here. And I kind of like where your head's at. I'm gonna go over with the rushing yards. I'm gonna go under with the touchdowns. The touchdowns is just because I do think there's a little bit of mix in there with Michael Carter, and not to say that he's a goal line back, but I do think he's gonna probably vulture some away at some point. Like running backs.
And I don't think we've said it, but it's 5.5 is what the touchdown
5.5 for the rushing
at.
touchdowns. Yep. Gotcha. Sorry about that. Sorry. So 830. I agree. You take a look at. Because you're right, it's not going to just be the Breece Hall show. It's going to be Breece Hall and Michael Carter, and they're going to rotate them in. But he is going to lead the way here, and I would expect him to be in that 200 plus touches at the very least. And if you go through the touches, like you said, Elijah Mitchell and Javonte Williams were both there last year. Of course, Najee was 100 over both of them. But then Taylor and James Robinson were over the 200 as well, too, and for them pretty significantly as well, too. So I do believe, they are going to be that run first team, which is why I went a little bit under on the Zach Wilson passing yards. But I do believe that in terms of the rushing game, I'm going to go over on the yards. I think Michael Carter can still get that split in the 500 range, maybe. And maybe this is a 1,400 yard rushing team just with those two. Of course, there's going to be other guys that you mix in there. But at least from those two, when you think of like some of the top duos in the league, this pair, and I said it's going to be a top 5 rushing team. This should be one of the top duos by the end of the season, because I do love Michael Carter's elusiveness, and I do love his ability to kind of just roll off guys and add a little bit of change of pace to what Breece Hall is going to do. They're both good fits for the zone scheme. We don't have any Michael Carter totals, but for Breece Hall, I'm going to go over on the rushing yards and under on the touchdowns, just because, like I did with, some of the other guys, it's just a lot of balls to go around for people, or not enough balls to go around. What am I trying to say here?
Not enough touches.
Am I making sense?
Not enough opportunities.
Opportunity. That's what I'm trying
to say. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'll disagree with you here. I'm going over on the touchdowns just because I think that, I do think I think LaFleur is going to, continue to be creative, continue to kind of mold this offense into his own and take more risks. And I think what that's going to do is it's going to show, he's not going to be scared to throw the ball when we're in the red zone. He's not going to be scared to, design some plays for Zach Wilson to get some passing touchdowns. But I think Breece Hall, the most successful teams in the red zone are teams that can run in the red zone. And I think that Breece Hall is going to be able to have that ability to, when he's getting those touches, to find his way in there. And I think he also kind of has that breakaway potential where maybe he, he can roll off a few guys and then outrun everybody. So I'm going over. I don't hate the reasoning at all. Like, touchdowns, they're hard, but with a guy like Breece Hall, I think once we're in that 25 and in, 20 and in, 15 and in range, I think we're really going to be leaning on him. So I think he'll be able to hit that 6 number. And yeah, Breece Hall is I'm projecting this team to score a lot more than we have recently with my overs on 3 of these 4 guys we've talked about here today.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I believe in these guys, and I think the offense is going to be a lot better.
The lines say enough that the confidence is there.
Yeah.
And I said that earlier. It's like these lines wouldn't be where they're at if they didn't think this team was going to take a huge jump offensively. And obviously, there are so many things that can get in the way of it with injuries and players not taking that second step. Like if Zach doesn't take the second step, a lot of these numbers change. If Zach misses out, then Elijah takes a step back and Garrett probably doesn't, have a great rookie season. So, there are a lot of moving pieces with it, but I think at least where the lines are set, you go, wait a minute. For Zach, like they're talking about numbers that have only happened twice in the last in this century. Receivers obviously a little bit more, but running backs as well too. I mean, it hasn't happened a ton. It's happened a decent amount in the last 20 years where they've had a leading rusher over 830 yards. But no, I agree. This team is on the move, and as far as my picks go, they all go hand in hand. I really do think this is going to be not pass happy, but I do think they're going to
willing.
Teams in general, I think are more pass happy in the red zone than they have been. They're pass happy everywhere, but I think you're starting to see them dial up in the red zone a little bit more. So that's where my numbers for Breece kind of reflect that, where I think, between the 20s can be a lot of that, and then they'll try and mix it up in the red zone. But yeah, I feel like we agreed on a decent amount and are a few off on a couple, but
I think 2.
Yeah.
But those will be fun to look back on. It'll give us an opportunity to have a winner when we look back. So that's fun.
Go ahead. I was going to ask you my trivia question.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that first.
Okay. How many running backs since the year 2000 have had over 830?
This one's hard again because we've had more than you're going to running backs. I'm going to go with 800. I mean, we had a lot of good running teams in the 2010s.
You have.
So I'm going to go 19.
So a little too heavy. It's 13.
Okay.
It's 13.
Okay. Yeah, 19 would have. What I was trying to think was maybe there was a few more years than I would think where we had 2 guys maybe hit that number. But
gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if there was any that were in the same season. Sense. You did have you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in a row of Curtis Martin, the legend. Of course.
And that's one of those things too. I wish that I was more alive and attentive in those.
Exactly.
In that era.
We were kids.
Yeah.
And then 2007 through 2009, it was Thomas Jones, the boy. LT in 2010. Then you got a couple 2 years out of Sean Green in 2011 and 2012. Beyond that, Chris Ivory, 2013, barely made it over with 833 yards. Then 2015 again with Chris Ivory, and that's the last time it's happened. Haven't had a running back go for over 830 yards since 2015. The closest was Matt Forte in 2016. I remember that season. He had 1 week at the end where I think he just went off in like the fantasy playoffs.
If anyone listening has not seen it yet, go look up the Michael K clip where some Jets fan is calling in and they're asking about current Jets, and he brings up. First, he goes with Matt Forte.
I've heard this,
then he brings up Robbie Anderson, and Don LaGreca just freaks out, and it's hilarious. If you haven't seen it, go watch that right now. That's cool. What I wanted to do, like I said, there was only these were the only lines that like player props that were really up. But I have 2 questions I want to ask. So first, let's take it to the defensive side. And I want to go with our defensive line. I guess first part of the question, who do you think is going to lead the team in sacks? And then second part of the question, Well, I guess answer that question
Oh,
first, and then we'll go.
who's
If
gonna
you want me
lead
to
the
go first
team
while
in
you
sacks?
think,
Go right ahead. Let me think on that because there's
yep. So I'll take the chalk here. I'm taking Carl Lawson.
yeah.
But I do think that the argument between him and Quinnen and even John Franklin Myers, was shown to be effective kind of at any position. I think those are real kind of guys you could pick. But at the end of the day, like Carl Lawson's the one who his job is pass rushing
Yeah.
and getting to the quarterback. So that's where I'm gonna go. I just didn't know if maybe you would lean on the Quinnen side or
I'm gonna
maybe your boy
go.
John Franklin Myers.
I'm gonna go nowhere. I'm give me Jermaine.
Oh, okay. All right.
To
All
me,
right.
if he's going to be the passing down edge rusher, and we think that
Yep.
they'll slow build him in the run game, fully refreshed Jermaine Johnson getting to the quarterback on third down. I think, so
Yeah,
much of
I
the
think that's a
attention,
good
and
pick. I didn't even.
there's a lot of great left tackles in the league. So I think, Carl Lawson's going to get most of the attention as he should, where I think maybe, not John Franklin Myers, Jermaine Johnson
Quinnen.
is
Oh,
going to be able to really get some damage done over there. But yeah, the interior guys aren't a bad pick either. Like you said, John Franklin Myers is going to have a lot of opportunities because of his position versatility. So
yeah.
I'm going to go Jermaine, but if I had a second pick, I'd go JFM.
Yeah. And then I guess, do you have an idea of where? I mean, you're kind of projecting Jermaine maybe higher than Vegas would, but do you have an idea where that line would be? And then for Carl as well, like I would imagine Carl would be around 5.5 for a line, maybe 4.5. But I would think you would hope he hits over that. Maybe I'm underselling him a bit.
Yeah, I think they would. I feel like for Carl, it could probably be around 5.5 or 6.5. I would say
Yeah.
those two probably, and then Jermaine probably is going to be what, like 4.5.
Yeah, three and a
He's
half
gonna be
maybe.
pretty low.
Yeah, so maybe if
Interesting.
that line comes out, that might be some value that
Something
you
to
guys
jump
can
on.
take.
I
And
like
then
that.
the only other one I wanted to do, this is just kind of, I mean, I brought it up a few times, but I want to talk the tight ends. I mean, between those two guys, I guess
Hmm.
give me who do you think is going to catch more touchdowns? Who do you think is going to have more yards?
Okay.
And if you can, just kind of where you see those yardage between the two, like where would you project them to finish?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna go CJ leading in yards, and I'm gonna go Conklin leading in touchdowns because I think he can make a little bit more of the flashier plays where maybe he can extend. But I think that they're gonna go to Uzoma probably a little bit more, and I think you're starting to see that connection with Wilson get a little bit stronger this offseason. And I think
Yeah,
he's the vocal leader, so I think he's gonna get the receptions and the receiving yards. But I think Conklin's got some really sneaky plays in his career where you're like, damn, how do you make that grab? Going back to his Minnesota days.
yeah. Before you move into your projections, I'll just say I totally
Yeah.
agree there. I think with Conklin's, I think he's going to be a target in the red zone. I think Uzama is going to be the guy who's out there more often, But I do think that once we're in the red zone, it'll kind of be more Conklin than not. So yeah, I agree with you there. I think that's just going to be fun to watch because we have two, pretty good established guys at that position. So I'd love to see, what happens. And then I guess I'll give my projections
Yeah. What do
first.
you think for
You're,
yards?
I mean, I don't really know, but I think that neither of them are going to have like these great, outstanding years
Mm-mm.
because of kind of each other eating into each other, not eating
chasing
out
six,
each other.
chasing 69.
Make that a t-shirt.
Eating
But
out.
so I honestly I think that Conklin's going to be, around 500, 520, kind of low fives. And then I think Uzama is going to be around 600, 650 yards. So that's kind of where I see the split. I think in terms of yards, Conklin or Uzama is going to lead by a small margin, but not anything where it's like super differentiated.
Who gets more yards, Corey Davis or Uzoma? Because now I'm just trying to do math in my head of where all these guys end up playing out.
Good question. Yeah, I mean,
Answering your question with another question, so I'm putting pressure on you. But yeah, no, I'm
I
gonna
think
say, go ahead.
they'll be around the same area. I
Right?
think Corey Davis. I think Corey Davis maybe has the opportunity because especially early, I think he's going to be out there, and I think he's going to still be getting his opportunities. Because I
Yeah.
don't think they're going to just say Garrett Wilson, you're getting all the work. at least for the first couple games. So if he can stay healthy, I think Corey Davis will be around that 600, 700, well, probably 500 or 600 yard mark. So I'd say Corey Davis probably right on par with Uzomah, maybe slightly higher. Where do you layer those three guys?
I'm going to go Corey Davis probably. No, I'm going to go. Oh, fuck. That's tough.
And we're forgetting about Braxton too. Who knows where all these yards
well,
are
that's what
go.
I was trying to, the math I was
Everyone
trying to do in my head
is like, for
how do
600
I get
yards?
I was like, how do I get to 3,700 yards here? And if I've got Elijah at 1,000, if I've got Garrett Wilson at 700, there I got my 17. If I give, Corey Davis and Uzomah, 600 each, then I'm at 2,900. Then I only have 1,000 to go, and I could sprinkle in Conklin, Berrios, the running back. So I kind of like that mix a little.
I don't hate that. Yeah, I think
so
I'm
going to go Corey Davis, maybe around like a nice 600. I'm going to go Uzomah, maybe a 575, and we'll sprinkle Conklin in down in the high fours, maybe
480.
480. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, no,
it's got to add up to.
I was hoping that there would be lines for like Conklin and Uzomah, and obviously, that's kind of more
still
niche.
Got some time.
But those, and maybe we'll do this again kind of closer to the season if more lines come out.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna make some bets tonight.
Me too. I'm gonna hammer that.
It's always fun making some futures because you don't feel like you lose it for a while.
Every offseason, I put like a crisp $20 bill on the Colts Super Bowl odds because I'm just like,
I got the Jets Super Bowl already. I've had it for a while now, so yeah. But this was great, man. Another great episode.
Yeah.
How do we find stuff to talk about that's so interesting?
I know. I'm glad that's we were texting about that. You said that earlier today, where it's like, yeah, we had nothing to talk about all week, and then it's like, okay, we can still find something to chat about for an hour. So we've only got a few more weeks of having to do this because football is going to be back into our lives very soon.
Training camp winners and losers, camp battles. It's going to be awesome.
I did just purchase Warren Sharp's annual book, and maybe I'll take a nice look into the Jets section over there. I usually just go to the Colts, but maybe we can pull out some fun stuff about what he views of that team. Because have you ever checked out his encyclopedia is like one of my favorite purchases for the NFL season. That's where I get a lot of not my thoughts, but it's very thought provoking, where you're like, okay, well, if I kind of view X player a little bit higher than maybe he does, then what does that say about my thoughts on the team? And so it's a really good book. It's not expensive. I think it's like $10. But a lot of fun stuff on there.
Shout
out Warren Sharp. He crushes it. So maybe we'll take a look and see if there's any fun things that he's got in there about the Jets. But you're right. We made it through another week, and we've got just a few more to go until the fun kicks off. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Chasing 69, a New York Jets podcast. It is not MILF Hunters, unfortunately. Follow us again on Twitter at NYJ_Chasing69. Same for the YouTube. Teddy at Teddy Huncho. I'm at Blake Andrew Pace. Teddy, thank you so much as always for doing this, and we will catch you all next week. Peace.